Shalom, Kahala Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of the Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who are the house of David reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about Esau and how he has seen his end. But before we get into that, let's read this. This is Job 15:22. He believeth not that he shall return out of darkness, and he is waited for of the sword. So today's lesson, Akim, is going to be revolving around a secret military project known as Project Looking Glass. This is a project which the military, or should I say Esau, has conducted in an attempt to see what awaits him in the future. I know it may sound a little far-fetched, but first of all, you got to understand that Esau, or Edom, or what you would call them today, the Caucasian race, they are witches, okay? They are magicians, and they dabble in witchcraft, fortune-telling, soothsaying, magic. And all that science is, especially the higher echelons of today's science, it's a very highly refined and perfected form of magic. And that being said, this project has also been referred to by other whistleblowers like Bill Lazar, who is a popular whistleblower who came out regarding Area 51, and he's been venerated recently with the technology that Esau is bringing out. Well, he mentions it in a Joe Rogan show.
Propulsion stuff. I mean, anyway,
Well, what have you read? What
you saw too. I mean, you know.
What are you talking about? Spill the beans, Bob.
I got to poke the bear here a little bit.
Get some more liquor in you.
Well, I mean, the only thing I could verify was what I had my hands on. There was talk of weapon systems, that there were different projects. Project Galileo, Project Sidekick was supposed to be weapon applications of the craft. Project Looking Glass had to do with time, any effects of time in the craft. Now, I don't think, we're not talking about making a time machine like in science fiction, but we're talking about, small distortions, intentional distortions of time, and how that can be used, as a, not as a, well, it was part of a weapon program.
How are you informed in this?
These, again, were just the small briefings that I read.
So there's that. Next, there's been plenty of cooperation from other whistleblowers that refer to this project. And the first time this project was made known was by a man called David Wilcox. Now, this man here also brought out other secret phenomenon which had happened in the past, namely the Black Jesus in Africa. The one where it said that he appeared in the 70s and he was doing all these miracles, and that the elites basically had him killed, but he still reappeared and they couldn't get rid of him. And he eventually said that in time, more people like him would show up and they could do nothing to stop them. Well, this man, David Wilcox, breaks down what his insiders had told him about Project Looking Glass and how it worked.
Well, this is what it looks like. This is real. This is, yesterday and today is the very first public unveiling in a public presentation of Project Looking Glass. A human being is about this tall. This is built in underground bases. It is colossal in size. And what happens is when you fire this thing up, these rings start going in all different directions. It shields off the barrel of water inside, which is just like your pineal gland. The water inside flips over into time-space, which then captures argon gas, captures visual images, and this is what it looks like. It becomes huge, glowing, all the way out to these posts, which are used as stabilizers for the energy field. Now, it doesn't start out with an image of the Earth. That's just there as a placeholder, although you could see the whole Earth like that if you wanted to. That's not usually what happens. The Iraq War had, to a large degree, the mission of capturing a looking glass technology that was dug up in Sumer, which was originally in the possession of Gaddafi in Libya, which is why they attacked Libya. Gaddafi got rid of it and gave it to Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was using this technology, viewing the future. The U.S. government went in after him because they felt that the fate of the world was at stake, because if they did not capture this technology and get it back and deconstruct it, that the Earth would have a pole shift. So what they found that was so bizarre was that at December 21st, 2012, they could calculate it down to the day, that's how precise this was, that for some reason all the graphs, all the waves would go into a complete flat line. They no longer moved up and down like before. They went flat for like 7 or 8 seconds. So then they're asking the guys that went through these stargates and were traveling into the future, what happened to you? Every single time that somebody tried to hit 2012, they said the same thing. There was this thing they called the bump. It actually hits you like a bump. You actually feel like you've slammed into something. And as soon as it slams into you, you have the most incredible religious experience you can imagine. Cosmic consciousness. Your consciousness.
So there you have it. So he gets a little bit into how this machine was depicted in the movie Contact, but it was definitely oversized and a bit embellished. But we know how Esau gets down, how he shows what he's doing in movies. And that being said, there's been many whistleblowers who've come out to talk about Project Looking Glass. And the primary source for today's lesson is going to be this man called Bill Wood. He appeared on the Camelot organization, which are known for many UFO videos. You probably remember them from the Norman Bergman interview, where he was a NASA scientist who admitted that he had seen black aliens get out of a ship and they were 7-8 feet tall.
And Neil were on. But anyway, there is one image there that shows black people getting off.
So people with dark skin getting off.
Not dark, black.
Black skin.
Really black. Yeah.
Were they tall?
Yes.
Very tall?
Yeah.
How tall? Do you know?
Well, they got out the doorway. I don't know how high that is, but
Well, what?
it's safe. 7 feet would be probably a conservative estimate.
We're going to go ahead and get into this whistleblower Bill Wood's testimony about what he was able to see while using this device to look into the future, and how ultimately it only showed him the end of the Edomite race. And I know what you may be thinking, but it is a known fact that the U.S. military has used psychics and remote viewers for missions. In fact, they've even made a movie about it called The Men That Stare at Goats. And as you can see here, it says based on a mind-boggling true story. Now, if you watch this movie, it's a pretty funny movie, but they get into some real stuff, and they show how the military put a lot of effort into this, and how they would use LSD and other multiple drugs to invoke certain states of consciousness which were used to perform these acts. And again, like I said in the beginning of this lesson, this is all a higher form of magic, basically a very controlled and refined form of divination. Now, in this interview, he doesn't understand what he's seeing. He believes that the end of the civilization or what he says their civilization, he doesn't realize that this is the end of EDOM civilization, end of their rule upon the face of the earth. And then he goes on to explain how the elites, the kings of EDOM, are tripped out by this, and this is why they no longer use this device, because it no longer serves their purpose. Well, let's go and watch this interview, and I'll break in with some scriptures here and there.
We haven't actually talked about your special training.
No.
Can we actually go down that road to where we talk about where you've been and some of the information you have? Because your, I don't know if it's your clearance level that gave you that, you know, the additional information about black projects and about certain aspects of, well, to name Area 51 specifically, possibly other places that you haven't told me about yet. Do you want to go, you know, start down that road slightly?
Sure. The level of secrecy and secret facilities and the capabilities of our nationally kept secrets would shatter most people's imagination of what is possible. Area 51, Los Alamos, Dulce, 100 other top secret bases where information is kept or hidden from the public in general, it would be very hard to accept that all of this information that is currently held secret and classified is actually real.
And you know this because why?
Because I've experienced things in the military that I've then told people about, and by and large, people that have never held a top secret clearance would call me either, at the mildest, a liar, the greatest accusation, crazy. Certainly, we in the Nines all possessed a certain level of intuition and ability that would seem advanced to anyone who watched us use it.
Can you elaborate on what you may have come across?
We as human beings are far more capable of using many, many advanced skills beyond 5 senses. With a little bit of training and the knowledge that it was actually possible, most people could accurately predict the possibilities of the future.
All right, so, but to get back to Area 51, and I understand that at this point you would be violating a security oath to talk about it, right?
I'll present it to everybody very simply. What could be so important at Area 51 that would require the level of secrecy that is in existence around that facility? Well, certainly if I said that we kept the U.S. space fleet there, and that space fleet was what we would understand to be UFOs, the U.S. has dozens, if not hundreds, of vehicles that are more than capable of space flight, and make it so we would have a fleet of vehicles that would be seemingly extraterrestrial. And the reason that has to be kept that way is because if you know that those vehicles exist, you start to question the technology that they're based on. And when you start to do that, then you start to question why we're still using petroleum products and solid rocket boosters and everything else, and things get quickly out of hand after that. One of the caveats that I do have some personal information that I did get personally involved in was some information that had to do with the Stargates and Looking Glass. There was a problem when we approached 2012. I've heard it described a number of ways, but to my knowledge, the problem is that the timelines converge on that point. In an easy way to put it, the choices that we make become less and less consequential to the future. And eventually we're pushed into this bottleneck of time, no matter which choice we make.
This is Job 14:5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou hast appointed his bounds, that he cannot pass.
What happened was people, very smart people, began to figure out that something big was coming up. Something that made it so all the possibilities of all the future scenarios of any choice, any possibility that was fed in and observed through the looking glass inherently ended up in the same future. And no decision, no possibility changed past a certain point. That's the big secret.
This is Micah 2:3. Therefore thus saith Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, for which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil.
So at that point, all possibilities lead to the same
Timelines.
Rubicon.
All possible timelines lead to the same basic set of history in the future.
And what is that history to you? Did you know that, or did you find that out?
That is the big question. That is the big secret. That is what sends everybody that has all of the information, that knows everything, into a blind panic.
And what they've seen is prophesied in Isaiah 14:2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Numbers 24:18. And Edom shall be a possession, Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies, and Israel shall do valiantly. And Obadiah 1:18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them, and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for Yahweh hath spoken it.
The people that know everything about Looking Glass, that have gotten all the reports and all the information, the elites of the world, probably figured out that that was the end of the game, and nothing could be manipulated beyond that point.
Revelations 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
But at a certain point, it's still an end game. It's still, they cannot go beyond a certain point.
At a certain point, after they're done hearing the computer tell them this is what's going to happen over and over and over and over again, all they become focused on is, how do we fix it?
This is Job 15:24. Trouble and anguish shall make him afraid. They shall prevail against him as a king ready to the battle.
Why? What is this that's going to happen?
The
You know that?
inevitable contraction of the timelines.
But what does that mean for this reality? Do you know that?
I don't know that. What I do know is that I was called in and asked to solve this problem.
this timeline contraction problem. And I eventually did my due diligence and did all the investigating, and basically only had one piece of information, and that was reinforcement. The computer's right. The timelines will contract down to some inevitable thing that you guys won't tell me about, so I can't help you.
But it's, what you're basically, you came back with was, it is inevitable, whatever it is.
There is an inevitable event. It's been forecast, it's been predicted, it's been fed to us in a slop trough of what they want us to believe will happen.
But they don't actually
However,
know.
they don't actually have control over what happens. They only have control over the reaction, and it seems that no matter what they tried to do to cause their desired reaction, it's going to have an opposite effect. If I had to give it a name, I would say it's the awakening process. It's an evolution of consciousness that cannot, will not, and no matter what decisions or possibilities are injected into the equation, eventually it all resolves down to us all learning the truth and becoming aware of this massive dam of lies that has been built that keep us from knowing massive volume of information that we should otherwise possess.
So he's talking about the Great Awakening, first and foremost, which will happen to the Israelites and then to the rest of the world. This prophecy refers to the Israelites. This is Daniel's 12:2. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to shame and everlasting contempt. And this prophecy applies to everybody. Luke 8:17. For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. And when the truth finally comes out, then all the world's going to realize that these Edomites are the devil the Bible speaks of, and how they've destroyed everything. And that's going to cause this prophecy to come to pass. This is Isaiah 14:16. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, Is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with the sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet.
Is it your understanding that the notion that looking glass has been, that there are various looking glasses around the globe supposedly, that according to Dan Burish were shut down? Is it your understanding they're actually not shut down?
I believe that they're shut down because they are all saying the same thing, and they're completely useless at this point.
Is what you're saying.
Right.
This is Isaiah 55:11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it.
It's like the Wicked Witch, looking into the, magic mirror and always getting the same answer. Well, if you were always getting the exact opposite of the answer that you wanted, you'd stop talking to the mirror. And that's essentially what happened with Looking Glass. Is not only did they not want people to use it anymore because they knew it was just going to burp out the same thing, but at the same time they didn't want anybody else to know what it was saying.
Isaiah 29:15. Woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh, and their works are in the dark, and they say, Who seeth us, and who knoweth us?
I'm sure. Because
that they would lose control.
Because that information was of a monumental concern when I was in the military about how to prevent this inevitability. Now, at first I thought it was end of the world. Now I see end of the world as end of their world.
2 Ezra 6 and 8. And he said unto me, From Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. For Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth.
I again see as a new beginning, an end of this reality, the beginning of something that we can't even possibly understand based on the level of our beliefs currently. But when all that information comes flooding out, there's going to be no denying what's true and what's a lie or what's illusion. Basically what we're experiencing right now is two master chess players sitting at the board. And one of them looks down at the board and sees that he's in checkmate in 7 moves. And he looks across at his opponent and he knows that his opponent sees it too. So there's no getting out of it. So at this point, the loser can only prolong the game. The game, both players know the game is over. It's only a matter of time before he does this, and then you're forced to do this, and then he's forced to do this, and eventually checkmate. We, as a race, if we could understand that the game is over.
Isaiah 47 and 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Take the millstones and grind meal. Uncover thy locks, make bare the leg. Uncover the thigh, pass over the rivers. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will not meet thee as a man.
Based on the rules of the game, the bad guys have already lost, the good guys have already won. Yes, there's moves left on the table, but those moves are being forced by the player that is going to win. The only way that checkmate can't happen is if the player that's winning makes a mistake. But from all of the information that I've gathered, all of the information that's been given, all of the information that's been vetted to me, it seems pretty obvious that the good guy player on the side of the chessboard knows exactly what has to be done to win the game. And so at this point, any mistake would be all but impossible.
One of the things that goes on is they are very busy building underground bases, supposedly underground cities.
This is Revelations 6 and 15. And the kings of the earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb.
And so they seem to be hedging their bets for the negative timeline. And putting their emphasis there. Can you explain why they have been hedging their bets to such a degree on the negative?
It's very simple. They're insane. And beyond insane, they have literally deluded themselves into believing that they can somehow manage to get away with what they're trying to get away with. There is a distinct lack of reality in that thinking.
Okay, what about the notion that CERN, for example, is engaged in trying to beat that game, as you call it?
I would say, look at the problems CERN has had. The crazy little things that have kept that project from moving forward. Certainly they have never even come close to getting that project to the level that they want it to be to do what they really want to do with it.
Job 5:12. He disappointeth the devices of the crafty, so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise.
Listen to the interviews of the scientists that are working on the project. Even they say that it seems like somebody or something from the future won't let them get that project done. And the craziest little things have caused massive damage to that project. And when you get the foremost thinker in string theory saying, yeah, I don't think we're going to do it because I don't think fate wants us to do it, that says something about a scientist.
Psalms 21:11. For they intended evil against thee. They imagine a mischievous device, which they are not able to perform. Therefore shalt thou make them turn their back, when thou shalt make ready thine arrows upon thy strings against the face of them. Be thou exalted, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, in thine own strength, so will we sing and praise thy power. Kahalaya Habashem Yahushai. And so there you have it, Akim. This is the proof that shows you that Esau knows that his time is up and that they are not going to win. So hopefully you found this video edifying. Till next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Ruach Kodash. Shalom.
Okay, so, well, thank you very much. I think that at this point we're going to have to close this down unless there's any other things that you think that we haven't covered or that we could possibly touch on that you want out there.
No, I don't think we'd get any further tonight. Certainly from what I know, the questions will come out and be more than happy to do a live feed after that and answer any questions that anybody comes up with from this interview.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you very much, Bill Wood, for your service to humanity.
Well, hopefully I can get everybody else working towards that goal as well.
Absolutely. Well, apparently, regardless of which way they work, the convergence will happen.
Yeah. There's a certain element of pain that we can reduce by just not accepting that we don't have choices in the matter. And sitting back and waiting for the aliens to fix everything isn't going to help.
Absolutely.
If we are inevitably coming to a rising consciousness, we should start trying to elevate our consciousness as fast as humanly possible and make that transition a lot easier when it comes.